wishing you happiness and success. Today we have special guest Anand. He's one of our most successful and one of the most energetic and inspiring client at the leader inside you. He has achieved amazing success in this recent few months, and I would like to. That's why I invited him to share how he did it, how he transformed his mindset, how he transformed his career, and make it made it possible, which most of the people think is not possible. So, hello, Anand. Nice to see you.
Hello. It's really nice to see you as well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm so delighted to be here. We have been talking so many times, so many months, and it's wonderful to share that joy talking with you to the rest of the world.
Of
Okay.
course, it's been a wonderful experience. Personally, it has been a very fruitful last 8 months.
Mhm.
Of course, thanks to a lot of the work that we have done together in our, group coaching sessions, Q&As,
Mhm.
as well as going through the training materials for the Leader Inside You program,
Yeah.
and just looking to apply the same techniques and follow the roadmap to bigger and better places.
So wonderful. So why don't you start with telling our amazing story? What happened in last 8 months?
Well, to start off with, I'm a technology professional. I've been in the technology sphere for a good 10 years now. My domain experiences are varied, right from software quality assurance all the way into DevOps. Now into more of a technical management sphere. So when I first met Ravi, I had been working at one of the premier CDN companies in the world, and I had been in my role there for 4 years. I was very satisfied with the work I was doing, with the remuneration, with the different projects that I was working, but somewhere I felt that I could utilize my energies and my passion to grow much further. Fast forward, I meet Ravi. We were having conversations around mindfulness practices, harnessing the leader inside you, using mindfulness practices to be emotionally aware, body scan to make sure that we are in the right emotional mind frame as well as the right mindset when we are engaging with whether it may be our peers, our team members, or multiple other stakeholders. That gradually segued into me gaining much more confidence in my day-to-day work. During one of our conversations, Ravi was highlighting how career sponsorship is extremely key in order to climb the ladder. I was able to summon up the courage, talk to one of my executives who was 4 levels above me,
Yeah, four
and
levels.
this was
Whoa.
a passing conversation in our company cafeteria when he mentioned that there was a technical management role for which they were looking to hire. And he just casually mentioned that, I should try to talk to some of the team members there to gauge the fit. Went through the whole process. It was, fantastic. Worked with Ravi because one of the key aspects of the interview was that I would have to do a video presentation of about 90 minutes. That video presentation would cover, multiple technical aspects. So I really want to, highlight that, especially if you're having confidence issues or if you feel that there is some, presentation skills that your work should need to be worked on. Ravi is the person to work with. He was able to, do a session with me. I was able to rewatch that session at least a good 4 times before my interview. Picked up a lot of good things, body language, voice modulation, being able to use pause very effectively. And I have to highlight that point because before that, my sole concern used to be, hey, I need to get all of my points across, or I would just forget it. So sometimes, I would skip over that pause, or my pace of speaking would be much more faster than sometimes other people were used to. So I had to sort of like consciously recognize that, bring that to a manageable pace, introduce pause. Again, when I mention some of these may seem very small alterations, but I can, personally assure that they give the biggest bang for buck, as they call it here.
That's true, and that is really interesting that you mentioned one thing. People ask me like, how can change happen so quickly? And then you notice that you watch your own video 4 times. It's nothing like people have to tell you. You have to watch yourself, observe ourselves, and then it transforms, which is beautiful thing. And tell me a little bit about this. Like you reached out to this 4 level up, right? Now many people come to me. Oh, even reaching to one skip level is hard. When it's to three, then forget about reaching 4 level up. So what you have to tell to like people how easy it is, or why it shouldn't be a big deal to reaching out to people, or why should we reach out to people? What opens up?
I think very great questions to delve into, and I think there are a lot of factors involved. So I'll try to give my answer in three different with three three
Hmm.
touching on three key points. First one is that if you don't ask, you will never find out. Again, something that Ravi and I had talked about a bunch of times, and uh, it was personally for me, it was just a step of, hey, let's just ask. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen is that you get shot down and you said, this can't happen.
Hmm.
If that happens, then we are always free to sort of like move on to the next good opportunity we see. So I
Hmm.
think the first key step is, which is of course the hardest step,
Hmm.
summon that inner leader, and
Hmm.
just be be confident, be open as to why you are seeking this particular opportunity. Highlight a couple of areas where you have been outstanding, and then you have a body of work that can be shown. Um, Once you have that, then obviously the first step would be reaching out. The second thing is, and this is something that I have had to learn by personal observation.
Hmm.
um, Initiative takers are the ones that get noticed.
Yeah.
So even if there is a 5% chance that by you taking this initiative you might come under the radar of a higher
Hmm.
executive, that is totally worth it. Whether you might get that opportunity today, tomorrow, or 6 months down the line, executives do remember that, hey, there was this individual who reached out and they wanted to you know either make a career leap or they wanted to uh, get an opportunity to hone their skills and provide more to the company, which again also sort of buys into their ethos of, we want the smartest people and the most initiative driven people, working under us,
Hmm.
in order to, grow the business. So that's definitely another positive. Um, the third thing is that a lot of times what happens is that we can actually get carried away by the success that we have
Hmm.
achieved in our current team, and we can trick ourselves into believing that we have hit our potential, or that there are no further improvements to be made, or there is no major technical challenges ahead of us. But by reaching out to maybe 2 levels or 3 levels above, what we can actually try to um, highlight is that, hey, we want more. We're not just happy with a couple of promotions. We're not just happy being a team leader. We as an individual, as a career person, we want more
Yeah.
from our day-to-day successes uh,
Hmm.
and team successes.
Yeah.
I also personally highlight this because I was one of my top three performers in my
Hmm.
team consistently.
Hmm.
And by the end of 4 years, I definitely needed a new challenge.
Hmm.
And what better way to challenge yourself than, doing something that's very hard, just, talking to somebody 3 levels up or 4 levels up.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say these 3 points is
Right.
what
Yeah.
is my perspective on why
Mhm.
it's very important to embrace career sponsorship and
Yeah.
not necessarily look at it as something that will backfire,
Hmm.
but something that can help us grow in many ways.
Right. And many times, as you mentioned, you are one of the top three performers. Actually, these top people are expecting you to come in. Oh, you are such a good one. Oh, come, come. I need you. So if I think for one of those top three, you are the one who reached out and you got it. Other people must be, stuck in that mindset. Oh, why should I? And all those things. So I'm happy that we
The
met.
thing
So,
that the thing that really interested me in career sponsorship was more of uh, like you had pointed out so many times. You need to jump up the ladder, with the competition we have, with the
hmm.
job market that's going on currently, with the COVID situation. Every our entire work culture has become so fluid
Mm-hmm.
that what you might have thought as a safe role, even 8, 9, 10 months ago might not
Right.
exist,
Exactly.
as of today.
Mm-hmm.
At even in in such situations, career sponsorship becomes crucial,
Mm-hmm.
because where higher management might have been looking to hire from external sources, they would now say, hey, we have an in-house person with all of the knowledge that they have,
Mm-hmm.
and they might be actually better suited to this role. And since we're sort of like already transitioning away from their current role, we can retrain them and have them in the new role instead of
Yeah.
having to go through the hiring process again. Because as we all know, hiring a new person is always a coin toss at best.
Right. True. Yeah. So how it has changed, like, tell us like how it is different career wise 1 year versus now, role wise, responsibility wise, what is more exciting?
Well, longer work hours, can't say that's exciting. But jokes apart,
Mhm.
it's been a good learning curve, uh,
Mhm.
coming into a new domain, which is technical management, which is something I'd not touched before.
Mhm.
So every day is a learning experience. Every meeting is a learning experience. Every interaction is a lesson in terms of like what works, what doesn't work,
Mhm.
and I've really embraced that. Uh, the responsibilities are much more higher now. The stakes are much more higher,
Mhm.
which in turn is also positive, because once you deliver, the results are also that much better. The value add is also much more higher than what it was previously. And
Right.
that's a win-win for our entire team, as well as, for me as a career individual.
Yeah.
To give you an example, where in my previous role, I was sort of working with at the most 6 to 7 people across 3 teams.
Mhm.
That's now changed to something close to a good 40, 45 people spread
Wow.
across at least a good 7 or 8 teams.
Mhm.
So that's now been an even better challenge in terms of how do I coordinate, how do I make sure everybody has the information they need, and
Mhm.
also how do I involve everybody so that they feel that their input is valued and they are providing value not only to the team but also as an individual.
Mhm.
And sometimes, as a technical manager, I have to be very cognizant of the fact that um, it's always better if the team is highlighted much more, because once
Mhm.
the team does get highlighted, it's not that the individual contributors will be forgotten or their contributions are getting devalued compared to the contributions of our team in general. So that's another area that I'm really excited about.
Mhm.
Third, one of the best ways to grow in career, according to me, is definitely having the chance to interact with people of various cultures.
Mhm.
In our technology-driven world, it's not necessary that all our technology partners would be, let's say, in an English-speaking or an English culture-based nation.
Mhm.
I've had a chance to work with Europeans,
Mhm.
Japanese, people from the Middle East, people from South America, and that's been such a um, eye opener in terms of yes, everybody wants to perform well, everybody wants to get the right credit, but at the
Mhm.
same time, how do you get the best out of them
Mhm.
when there is a culture mismatch? So, for instance, one of the key things that I've enjoyed is that when you're working with Japanese people, they have certain ground rules in meetings. They have certain ground rules in how certain processes must be carried out.
Mhm.
Whereas when you come to more European nations, there is emphasis on process, but there's also emphasis on innovation.
Right.
Whereas if you come to the Americans, it's more like innovate, innovate, innovate. If a process worked yesterday, that's fine. We need
Right.
a new process for today to make it faster.
Yeah.
Um, which again, I didn't have a chance to do it in my previous role.
Wonderful.
And I think that has also helped me become more aware of a lot of cultural biases,
Mhm.
personal biases. Very. I mean, when you go through the trainings, initially, to identify bias, it's scary because it shows how much our culture and our upbringing has
Mhm.
sort of like put those biases so deep, and now you have to like recognize them, you have to unlearn them,
Right.
and I don't think I would have had the same opportunity in my previous role.
Mhm.
Um, so that's something I'm really grateful for in my
Good.
new role as well.
Wonderful. And I see that by this you're applying the we talked about a lot, right? Empathy and how you harness empathy, power of empathy, build the skill using mindfulness. And I think you are applying this so brilliantly. Like this cultural difference, many times what happens, I don't get it. Like they are so different than me. And then how do you start seeing from other people point of view? And then there is that skill of that this is the mental muscle that can be built stronger. It's a develop we can develop that skill, and you did it so wonderfully. It's a great
Yeah,
example.
I mean, it was definitely hard to give an example.
Mm-hmm.
When we were working with one of our Japanese partners,
Mm-hmm.
um, one of the things I found out that if they have their boss present in the meeting,
Mm-hmm.
they would typically not engage much or contribute much, but they would sort of like expect their person above them in the rank to sort of like drive the conversations. Uh, I was not aware of that, before I started working with them, so it was a bit of a challenge because the other person who was his superior was not a technology based person. He was more from the management group, and
Mm-hmm.
so he would have challenges understanding some of the intricate workings. Whereas the
Mm-hmm.
person that I was working with, he was more of a technology expert and less of a management oriented person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would sort of look for technology specific answers from him, and he would just sort of like revert me to his superior saying, hey, he needs
Mm-hmm.
to be the one, signing off on this. It took me some time to sort of like understand the dynamics of it. I spoke to the superior. I let them know that, this was a very time sensitive thing and that we needed to close this as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm.
And that person was more than happy to just let his subordinate, work with me throughout from, the beginning to the end of the project,
Mm-hmm.
with complete approval from his side. So again, a very interesting lessons in terms of like, not having any assumptions, being
Mm-hmm.
over communicating, making the other person understand the urgency of the situation and why you are basically choosing this approach.
Right.
Yes, initially there was that element of fear because
Mm-hmm.
the people that I was talking to were just one level below a C-level executive. So you're always sort of like,
Yeah.
second guessing. You're always like, did I send
Yeah.
them the right email? Did I proofread this at least a good three times before I sent it? But then again, once that like confidence sort of like starts
Mhm.
building up after you engage them a couple of times,
Right.
then it becomes pretty smooth sailing.
Right. And that's where this technique of noticing the self doubter, right? That's what is happening. You have that confidence all along, but when you go and talk to like 5 minutes before, all that self doubter comes in, and you're brilliantly noticing it and using the techniques to keep them
I think
aside.
in a way, I have to thank my self-doubter just as much as my inner leader because they are sort of like the yin and yang. So it's
Yeah.
like
Right.
the more the self-doubter comes out, I'm like, oh, this is just because I know how important this is and how critical this is. That's why my doubter is coming up, not because of
Yeah.
any lack of preparation or
Mhm.
any lack of engagement.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful
Right.
learning curve. Just understanding and learning and continuing to evolve with that.
Yeah, just noticing that it's there and what's the purpose of the self doubter, then the self doubter loses the power,
Yep.
and you can get in touch with your inner leader, which you are doing so nicely. So another point is like we had this lot of one-on-one conversation, one-on-one coaching. Tony Robbins says one of his presentation I heard he's saying that a good coach can save you a decade. What is your take on?
Absolutely. There's no doubting that having a good professional mentor, good career sponsorships are key
Mhm.
in order to achieve self growth. But I think this grows way more than that when you start up looking at it and applying it to non-professional spheres
Mm.
as well. To give you another example, our morning mindfulness calls that we have, um, uh, our millionaire mindset
Mhm.
approach.
Mhm.
That has tied in so much into my day-to-day routine in the morning that it's sort of like part of, it's almost like I get up, I have my coffee, and then it's my morning morning meeting call. And one thing that has shown me is that where sometimes I used to still look at certain situations and sort of like try to fake that confidence, or have that imposter syndrome sort of like outlook and then force that to my back of my head. Now I don't have to force that. I can understand why that comes out. I can definitely understand the reasons behind it and how to avoid it. And I think secondly, one more thing that again I have to thank you for is when we were actually working on our engagement for having a difficult conversation with a peer,
Hmm.
maintaining frame and sticking to frame, that became so vital. And sometimes a lot of people might look at career sponsorship and think, oh, this is all something that is only for the high performers or the ones with high confidence. But it actually is for everybody, whether they want to apply it in the professional sphere or sometimes even in the personal sphere. I've been talking to one of my friends, and I keep urging them to sort of like adapt mindfulness processes more and more.
Hmm.
So I think definitely, a professional coach is absolutely critical. Uh, I think in the past, maybe the mindset might have been, it's a luxury to have. I would actually suggest that it is something that one must have right when they are getting into their professional career itself.
Yeah.
Of course, some people sort of encounter this way further into their career and they're still able to get fantastic results.
Hmm.
But I think these sort of techniques and exercises, when individuals can apply them, going into their very first job,
Right.
wherein they have a clean slate, there is no baggage, where there is, obviously, a lot of enthusiasm, but also a sort of lesser awareness of corporate culture, lesser
Hmm.
awareness of things like executive presence, lesser awareness of things like career sponsorship. That would be something that they would now benefit a
Hmm.
lot.
Right.
Because now, maybe after a year of work, they would be like, hey, I had a fantastic year. I didn't get a promotion.
Right.
I have to talk 4 levels up and figure out what's going on here.
Nice.
Which is
Nice.
again a very subtle mindset shift, right? Because
Hmm.
we've always been told, work hard, you'll get noticed, put in
Hmm.
your years, and then you will grow. But that's not necessarily true, and there are ways to hasten that process. So I would definitely urge not only the professionals who are watching us discuss this right now, but also to other professionals that this might be reaching out to, that they should be looking at this as one of the key aspects of their career training,
Hmm.
and not just limit to technical expertise or management expertise, but also have these skills.
Yeah.
And finally, we're in the remote age. Whether we like it or not, this is going to be the paradigm, at least for the
Yeah.
foreseeable future.
Hmm.
So even in scenarios like this, it becomes very important. How to be fully engaged. How to have that mindfulness when you are entering meetings, exiting meetings. How can you best, just do a 15-minute video, but
Hmm.
convey the same content in that 15-minute video that maybe would have taken you a couple of days of memo writing to like present to your executives. So I think sort of like taking all these factors into consideration, this is something that I feel should be adopted by
Yeah.
all technology professionals and working professionals in other sectors as well.
Right. Totally. That's great. And here's the interesting thing what I see, like, I'm very you are on our spectrum of our clients. You are one of a very young young client, and this is what I see, that what you might have realized or might have thought 10 years later, because of all this conversation, that realization comes 10 years ago sooner. So I keep telling myself, if I would have met myself like 20 years ago, I would have been very different place right now. And I seen for myself, like, ever since I had one-on-one coaching conversation with some of my coaches, the shift starts happening. It's like,
Mhm.
it's so, they help us to see ourselves in a very different dimension. They stretch you, they challenge you, and sometimes it just without them thing doesn't happen. In your case, for example, in that watching the video, kind of, I helped you to do it. Like, just pushed you, just do it. So, and that's what, and then you did it. Of course, the credit all goes to you. I am kind of a catalyst, or the coach is a catalyst. So that is super critical. And about this morning, we have every day 7 o'clock morning call, just a 5 minutes call. But it has been, I will totally agree with you. It has been an amazing ritual getting established for all the clients. And you, Ankita, Soumya, Mrudula, Abhishek, they're always there. And for Anvita, it's a 5 a.m., but she's still there. Mariano is there, and I find there. Nowadays, Satish is coming. So a lot of people are coming every day, and this whole what do I call it? Ritual is getting established. Also, thanks for being there every single day. I always love to see you, and your name start with A, so you show up on the top.
I mean, I've enjoyed that a lot, simply because sometimes it's good to remind us of the victories we have had.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's good to be determined about some things, things you're procrastinating that you just don't want to deal with. Sometimes it's good to just get that out of the way. Um, Again, when we talk about it, sometimes for people who are looking at it, they might say, "Hey, these are very minor things. How come these things are being highlighted?" But like they
Right.
say, the smallest ripples have the biggest effect. And
Mhm.
so I think it's very key in this day and age, especially where we're talking so much more about mental health.
Mhm.
These things are like extremely critical for us to have good mental health.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, unlike physical health, you can't measure mental health. There's no mechanism. So sometimes
Yeah.
it's good to adopt these routines which bring positivity. You know, being mindful is now no longer a luxury. It's almost a necessity.
Mhm.
If you're not adopting this mindset at this day and age, you would not be able to be a high functioning individual.
Yeah.
And then it's only a matter of time before others leapfrog you. But even the career aspect aside,
Mhm.
wouldn't you want to get to bed and just fall asleep as soon as you hit it, without worrying about the stress and anxieties of the previous days? So
Yeah.
I think it's something that I wish a lot of people adopt,
Mhm.
especially the morning calls. I feel it's something that for people who might have challenges, getting up early. Maybe this could be one of their goals. Hey, at least for this call, let me get
Yeah.
up for 5 minutes and then go back to sleep later. But then hopefully they'll actually be able
Totally.
to stay there.
Nice. Nice. So,
So again,
mhm.
I think it was also through the morning mindfulness calls and having those celebrations, determination, all of those different aspects, and the chance to meet all the amazing people in the group. That's been something that I've really enjoyed as well.
Yeah. And speaking of group, we have this every week group calls, and whenever you are there, you bring new set of energy. So how did you find it? Like, what's those group calls?
I mean, the group calls are really nice. I can tell you for sure, that's the one meeting on Thursday that I really look forward to attending when I have the chance.
Yeah.
It's really nice meeting multiple individuals, from the technology sector. But at the same time, it's also in a way reassuring that everybody is more or less facing the same challenges. Sometimes you might think, "Oh, I'm stuck in my career," and then when you hear other people, share their experiences, that sort of tells you, "Hey, you're not alone." The challenges
Mm.
that you're experiencing, others are experiencing as well. So that
Yeah.
brings a level of maybe weirdly, I would say, comfort that okay, I'm not alone. This, I
Yeah.
have other peers who've also gone through this. Secondly, I love the energy and different viewpoints that other people bring in the group. Like for instance, Tarun, I feel always has an amazingly different viewpoint, not necessarily an incorrect viewpoint, but a very different viewpoint. And many a times I would be taking some of these notes when he's talking about it, and even simple things. We were discussing the other day about taking meeting minutes, about how to present our work if um, we don't have a particular boss right up the hierarchy. And in fact, a situation like that has just happened to me,
Okay.
wherein I am now working with this technology group, and I don't report to any of them, but
Okay.
technically they would be evaluating me for my project. So knowing that okay, such a situation exists, knowing that Tarun and other folks were able to use different techniques to manage it, now I can, you know, go into this situation a lot more prepared.
Yeah.
I don't have to go into this blind saying, oh, I don't know what to do. My work might not get highlighted, or what's going on here. That can be avoided. And I think thirdly, it just brings a lot of people together who otherwise would maybe never have had a chance to interact. I mean, I can't even think of any technology standpoint that me and Tarun would have worked together or worked with, except probably meeting on your call. So I think that has been something that I've really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Second thing is when we do the group exercises, and when we get into the breakout rooms and we talk to the folks who are pairing with us in the breakout rooms. I had a very interesting conversation with, I believe, Natraj
Mm-hmm.
a month back about how to engage with your boss and
Mm-hmm.
to like fast track your career growth. And he had shared some excellent viewpoints on the challenges he had faced as a young individual, just stepping into the management domain, which is what I've basically stepped into in the last 8 months. So again, advice that I would have not been able to get,
Yeah.
otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Again, all possible through the group sessions. And secondly, and I think the last thing rather I would say is that these become a good rallying point wherein you want to look forward to something because you always feel there's something to gain and to share. So for me particularly, I love sharing
Mm-hmm.
and trying to keep that mindset of like, hey, talk about your challenges, talk about your successes. Maybe that can inspire other ideas, but at the same time, I can say that things that I've gotten in return are, way, way, way more
Right.
than the things that I have been able to share, and that's always a net positive for everybody involved. And that's why I would strongly urge all members to share in the group sessions.
Awesome. You just made my day by saying that you have like 18 meetings, but this is the one you look forward to. One more
Well,
meeting, but
because it
this one.
doesn't end with Anand when I
And then
when
there
am
is
I
a
gonna
meeting
get the
after that.
code released today?
So it's always a great pleasure to see meet on
Absolutely,
this call.
absolutely,
And that's what I found with this group calls. It's just bringing smartest mind together. And when the smart minds come together, then different kind of magic happens. When you mix chemicals, new things come out. So same thing happens with this. It's a group. It's very interesting, right? I can say the same thing 10 times, but it may not resonate. But if you heard from 10 other people, there becomes a psychological social proof, and you start
absolutely,
believing. So that's what
absolutely.
happened last week's group call. We started about how career sponsorship work. So some of the new member had this doubt. Oh, does it really work? And then Soumya started working. Oh yeah, it works if you do the work. If you follow the process, if you do step by step, if you practice before going to boss, it works. And it works for you, work for Soumya, it worked for Anvita, so many people. It's working for everybody. Super cool. So what happens next? Like for you, how your mindset has shifted, what you see yourself, bigger vision, in what way your vision has changed, what way
I
more
think
things are possible for you now. What do you think? What has happened?
one is obviously skills development. Like I was mentioning to you earlier, I
Mhm.
struggled with executive presence in the online sphere. In person, I had no issues talking to executives, but in the online sphere, I had challenges which I was able to address.
Mhm.
Second thing, just focusing um, on repeating the process. Sometimes a lot of people think like, oh, you do it 1 month, that's all you need to do. That's not
Right.
accurate. You should keep doing sort of the analogy I give is like, driving a cycle. You'll never forget how to drive a cycle, but if you drive a cycle, for a long time, your health benefits would be exponential.
Correct. Yeah.
So this is sort of like similar to that.
Hmm.
Um, where I think I have drastically changed is that my interpersonal engagements are a lot more crisp now.
Hmm.
Uh, where they need to be,
Hmm.
where it needs to be a little more sort of like rigid, less rigid. I'm happy with that style as well, but
Hmm.
mostly my interpersonal communication has tightened up a lot.
Right.
Being very crisp and communicative, knowing what to say, knowing how to say it. I think that is the biggest mindset shift that I've made.
Mm-hmm.
Where initially I might have said that, this work is not subpar, or rather, this work is subpar and we need improvement. Now I would, phrase it in terms of this work might cause, production issues down the line. So we need to have another level of, QA effort put into this in order to address these challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And where for some people it might come across as, hey, he's just being too official. Other people, especially our peers, or or people who are working a couple of levels lower than us, they appreciate the context. Nobody likes to be said your work is bad, but if you tell them, hey, if you can do it in this way,
Mm-hmm.
it could reflect much better for you, in terms of like your performance evaluation and your ability to be recognized, then everybody jumps on board. They said, "Oh yeah, perfect. Yes, we want to do the best effort we can in the first effort, and we don't want to, submit shoddy work."
Yeah.
So that's something that I have sort of like embraced.
Mm-hmm.
And thirdly, strategic thinking, and this is where your inner leader is very critical. You need to be a very strategic thinker. You
Mm-hmm.
have to sort of like know whom to talk to and know whom not to talk to. Sometimes it is a necessity that you have to talk to the execs to bring up issues that might be lost in translation or might not be on their radar.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, I used to always sort of look at it as that's my boss's responsibility too. It's not on me to keep everybody aware of the risks involved. But my mindset shift has now been, hey, okay, what's the worst case that can happen?
That's a
The
good
executive will
question.
just ignore your email because he will say, oh, this is
Yeah.
information that I already have.
Yeah.
Or in the off case, wherein your boss has not mentioned it, your exec would be like, oh, good catch, I know what's happening
Mm-hmm.
now. So that's something that I've been working on, and again using the same tools as we discussed prior. And strategic thinking, I think mostly when we talk about strategic thinking, people sort of take it to a huge extent of like, oh, it means you must have hundreds of plans and hundreds of things, but it's more like, how do I make my day much more
Mm-hmm.
valuable? How do I make every interaction of mine much more valuable? That is something that again I'm sort of like working on a day-to-day basis. Um, and again, I think one of the other things is accepting different perspectives. Obviously, you're going to talk to other people who might not agree with you. How to reason with them. Again, like I think me and you had a conversation regarding my peer earlier. In many ways, that was very important for me because by able to gaining his respect, I was now able to gain the respect of the entire team because
Mm-hmm.
everybody was looking like, oh, he gave him an award. Like, okay, then we can trust this person and we can work with him considerably. um, Also, I think my inner leader has shown up in very subtle ways. I'm much better at managing confrontation. I sort of like take the personal out of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the way I always try to put it is, hey, you do this, you can log off at 6. You don't do this, you might be forced to come back later in order to clean this up. So how you choose to do it is left up to you. I'm only merely pointing out the risks involved. And 9 out of 10 times that does work. The one time it doesn't work, that's fine. We just
Mm-hmm.
have to roll with the punches that come our way. So that's something that I've also been able to do it a lot more.
Yeah.
Um, the final thing that I would say is that I have much more stronger boundaries now. I don't let um, some stakeholders overrule me unless they have absolute evidence of that what
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing is incorrect. I always phrase it as I'm not concerned about being correct or incorrect. I'm concerned about ensuring that the final outcome is what we are looking for. That sort of tends to soothe off some egos and ease collaboration into it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I also feel that sometimes you have to draw a line and say that my group is not responsible for this, or
Mm,
as currently with our current bandwidth, we cannot complete some of these these projects in time,
right.
um, which would definitely have not happened in my previous role because one, it was slightly different team, and there it was more of people embracing every work that came that way, irrespective of whether it would be leading to their career growth or not. So
Mm-hmm.
right now, I'm much more cognizant about like, is this something that's going to really help me? Is this something that I'm just doing as a favor? If I'm doing that as a favor, I set very clear expectations. Let them know this
Okay.
is not a priority. That I
Mm.
would get to it, whenever I have the bandwidth. If it's something that I feel is very important for my team and for my division overall, then it's much more easier for me to prioritize and get right on it.
That's good. Wonderful. So nice. I'm super excited. I can see that going. It's all about that creative visualization, right? So I always have that creative visualization. You are going such a fast pace. You are growing so fast. Maybe 1 year from now we'll have another Facebook Live. We would have achieved
Ab-
bigger milestones and things
Absolutely,
things
absolutely.
to
Yep.
show. Right.
Right. As
And
I said,
here is
we've been
the
working
one.
with 8 months. So, I can only imagine, people have been doing it for 2 years, or even,
Yeah.
going way back 5 years.
Right.
Um, you know, they would obviously have,
Yeah.
much more exponential growth to show for it.
Sure.
But I think for where I am now, compared to where I was,
Mm-hmm.
I'm super happy.
Very awesome. So one question for you. People who are watching this video, then probably they're gonna say, "Oh, it worked for Anand. I don't know it will work for me." So what would you say?
I think this is the trick question you had kept for
No,
the
like
end.
what comes to your mind?
I would say I was in the same mindset as them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
9 to 10 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
I would be the last person to pretend that it was easy. It was not
Yeah,
easy.
it's not easy. Yeah.
There's a lot of work that you have to put in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then one thing that I've sort of always sort of thought of when I get into a new habit or a new routine is that the first step is always the hardest. You take the first step and then you take one more step and then you just take one more step and keep going.
Right.
So my sort of my feedback to folks who are watching it is that do not overthink. Sometimes it's very easy for our mind to overthink every decision, second guess every decision we're trying to make, and obviously as we referenced earlier, that self doubter is always gonna keep coming up. The key is to ignore it. Just take one step. It's gonna show up again. Ignore it again. Take another step. Ignore it again. Take it another step. That's what's worked for me.
Yeah.
So that's what I would, say to the rest of the group that, just do it. And one thing is that it's always better to, ask and get an opportunity, rather than find out that your peer has asked for it and that he got it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because what that happens is that there's two things. Like one, now you are at a disadvantage compared to a peer because your peer already showed that initiative. So now for us to come back and say, hey, even I want to show an initiative, it might get um, seen as us trying to just get one over the peer or us trying to bypass them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Go for it. In this day and age uh, where having in-house knowledge and domain knowledge of your company is very relevant. I think
Mm-hmm.
people sometimes forget that fact. People sometimes think we have to go somewhere else to grow. There's no way we can grow here, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not entirely true. So we have to make sure that no matter what we're doing, we're continuing to learn, but at the same time, we're continuing to ask them. I want to do more. And then again, it also works both ways. If we know that our own company is not prioritizing our work or doesn't want to give us those opportunities, we definitely understand that we're not bringing that value to the company, and the company is not bringing that value to us as well. So then we can, choose to move on. So that's what I would say.
Great, nice, thank you. So part of people ask me like, okay, it work for your clients, other clients, will it work for me? If they do the work, if you take the step like you took the step, we all are equally intelligent. We are equally
Right.
capable. We all are equally confident. But thing is, you have to take that step. So for everybody who is listening to this, take the first step that Anand took about this particular journey, which is transformational journey of working with leader inside you and having that one-on-one coaching, group calls, and learning all these wonderful techniques of mindfulness. So what is that first step? You just go to the website. I'll also put a link also. I think Anand, you might be remembering your journey started with the webinar you watched,
Hmm.
right? That 5 steps to a high position. And I remember you telling me, I think you watched it twice.
Yep.
I remember telling you, like, and you took the notes. So I was so happy that, oh, wow, it's so good that you watched it twice. So I was glad that. So that's the thing. This webinar has been super popular. Around like 2,600 people have watched that webinar. So take that first step. There is a link here. Watch that webinar. See what if it resonates with you, and then if it resonates with you, just like Anand did, set up an appointment with me or one of our coaches, and we'll go through details of where your career is, where you are stuck. It's a personal. Every person has a different story, so we'll hear your story. We'll see your goals and aspirations, and then give you the personalized strategy. And if you do the work, it'll just work for Anand, and he'll keep working. So Anand, I'm wishing you super success. Of course, we are
Thank
gonna be
you.
always in touch, and I'm gonna watch you, observe you, and get inspired myself. And then I'm gonna spread your story to people, so they get inspired. Thank you again today for your time, and I'll see you again. Looks like this physical lighting is frozen. So okay. So any
Awesome.
final thoughts, and then we'll conclude.
Ah, and,
Okay.
I mean, no final thoughts as such,
Yeah.
because I don't like the word final. I wanted to,
Okay. For this
continue to
session.
keep it.
We
Yeah,
have to pause, stop, Mr. That's a good.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just trust your inner leader. I think the
Mhm.
key thing here is that nothing is unachievable. There are resources to help. Of course, there are peers who can guide you and motivate you. But the work has to come from you. So I think the key thing is, take that first step,
Mhm.
first plunge, first leap, depending on what sport is your favorite.
Yeah.
And then I think from then on, it's going to be really interesting.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anand. We'll
Thank
meet
you so much.
again. Maybe
Good.
we'll meet a new success story of you
Thank you.
soon enough.
Thank
Bye for
you.
now.